Okay, welcome to round 4 of the Square-Based Online Tournament. You have me against Jelly with a Tomb King list. He's also a member of the Old World Fanatics Patreon, so if you have, yeah, if you want some more Old World content, podcast and YouTube, Old World Fanatics. But he also 3-0 at this point, so we're trying to get to that 4-0 bracket. He has High Priest with a Lore Familiar, a Necrotect, Tomb King on a Bone Dragon, 10 Skeleton Archers, a single Skeleton Chariot, 5 Skeleton Horse Archers, 12 Skeleton Skirmishers. So a decent amount of shooting there that all hits on 5 pluses, which my sisters do not like. 25 big block of 25 Tomb Guard that the Necrotect buffs up. They had the Reserve Move and Vanguard banner, 3 Necropolis Knights, which I actually quite like. They're 3 of them is 9 wounds, which just seems good compared to my Silver Helms. 2 Tomb Scorpions, 1 with Ambush, Casket of the Soul, Necrosphinx, and the Screaming Skull Catapult. Yes, the High Priest was on Necromancy. So this list was called Terror Bomb, and that's really what it does. The High Priest has a leadership debuff, the Screaming Skull Catapult with Skulls of the Foe has a leadership debuff, and then the casket rips into you with Light of Death. I'm running my same list, so deployment. Once again, the Sisters of Avalorn ruin it because they're in skirmish. We're playing a modified, maybe it's meeting engagement. So you could put stuff in reserve that would come in on the long table edge. Neither of us chose to do that. The Square Base changed the rule so you didn't have to put anything in reserve. Basically, Sisters and Seaguard are in the middle. They got some flyers and cavalry on the flanks. My dragon was in the woods because, as far as I can tell, I can charge out of the woods and not take any penalties with a flyer other than taking a dangerous terrain chest when I leave. His Tomb Guard in the center, Tomb King's backing them up. He's got his Screaming Skull Catapult and Casket of Souls on the hill, and 1 Tomb Scorpion in ambush. I get turn 1. I move up. I shoot at the Skeleton Archers. I don't quite kill them all, but I think they're the only thing that was in range. My flyers start to move around the flank. My dragon just sort of hops forward. Silver Helms are in the wood. Put Earthen Ramparts on my sisters. I should mention I took Valzen making this game instead of Plague of Rust because he really doesn't have that much armor. Like the Tomb King's got Armor of Ages. The Tomb Guard I think are only on a 5-up. So my sister's shooting is going to pretty much go through it anyways. And Valzen making, if I can cast it on the dragon, would be very nice. Anyways, we got some incidental shooting. Don't do much. He pushes forward. He puts what happens? He casts the bubble of no inspiring presence and negatives to leadership here. Basically, the whole game, his Tomb Guard are moving forward and then Reserve moving back. He casts Spectral Steed on his Necrotect, which makes him ethereal, so means that I don't want to charge the dragon in there. After the game, looking it up, I'm not sure if that's allowed because ethereal models can't join a unit. He's already joined the unit, so I don't know. Anyways, his stuff just sort of shuffles around. The Horse Archers here to sort of stop the Silver Helms from charging the Necrosphinx and just sort of being in the way. He drops the Screaming Skull Catapult, I believe, on the the knights, or it scatters off the prince onto the knights. Anyways, this is a leadership debuff. There's a leadership debuff here from this catapult, and I think he maybe tried to cast the one that debuffs a single character on the prince, but didn't quite get it off. This was poor positioning. My Griffin should have been within 9. It's tough. He should have been within 9 to so they can share. So his Pure of Heart leadership buff can go onto the prince. But the problem with that is if I'm in range, he can just cast a spell in between them, and then they're both reduced leadership, and it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's obviously, it doesn't cost me anything to do that, so I should have done that. Let me just think about this. I maybe didn't say this, but I might have traveled Mystical Pathways the Seaguard instead of the Sisters. My turn again. What was over here? So the Skycutter and the Silverhelms charge the Horse Archers, kill them. The Knights overrun into the Necrosphinx. The Skycutter, thanks to the spell, fails to restrain and just moves forward, which is disappointing. The Eagle continues his flight around the flank of the army. The Sisters travel Mystical Pathways up. I don't even know what I was thinking here with the Seaguard. They're just moving around. Silverhelms, and I think maybe the Griffin charge the skeleton unit and wipe them out. And my dragon just skips over here. I don't know. He's trying to stay out of charge arc of the... he doesn't want to be charged by the Tomb King and Tomb Guard and the Tomb King, but he'd be happy to fight the Tomb King if I'm allowed that charge. I think, so going back here, he initially, rewinding a turn, he had initially cast Light of Protection, but then he went for Light of Death, but only managed to do 1 wound to the dragon. So Jelly's turn 2. The Necrosphinx kills the Silverhelms, chases them off runs them down, chases them off the board. The Skycutter flees from the Scorpion's charge and takes 2 wounds for dangerous terrain. Lands in the woods. He shuffles back with most of his stuff. This Chariot's doing reserve move shenanigans, trying to whittle things down. The Screaming Skull Catapult lands in here. Kills some Sisters. Maybe kills some Seaguard. And then he does Light of Death again. And you can't quite see, but I think he does 6 or so wounds onto the Prince. Why is that number so... Anyways. 6. Yeah. The Prince is hurting at this point. What happens now? My Skycutter continues to flee, which is not great. The Sisters shoot over at the Scorpion. My dragon... How had he done that? My dragon fails. It's a fairly long charge, but not unreasonable to the Scorpion, I think. And he fails it. So he's just sort of hanging out in the open now. The Eagle charges into the Casket, so it's hopefully shut down for a turn. I think I do 1 wound to the Casket, and the Casket does 1 wound to the Eagle. The Griffin skips back here, but out of line of sight of the Chariot to hopefully, threaten some flanks. Out of line of sight. Yeah, he's dodging line of sight arcs, but he's potentially going to get some flanks. I'm hoping something can charge into here, and then I can get some flanks and charges. So he turns to face the griffin. The eagle dies. He brings in his ambushing tomb scorpion back here just to try and protect his war machines. To go back a turn or two. So he, after he overran with the Necrosphinx on the Silver Helms, he forgot that you could reform, and I forgot to. It's something from past editions, so he didn't reform. So that'll come back later. So he now flies the Necrosphinx over. I'm not sure why he didn't charge the Sky Cutter, because I would have had to have kept fleeing, and then he could have just overran this way. But anyways, he flips the Necrosphinx around, does some more shooting to the sisters. What have I got? Yeah. So turn 4, travel mystical pathways. I get out of the move the sisters out of the charge arcs, move the chariot, which has finally rallied to be in. The dragon finally makes a charge, kills the tomb scorpion, and afterwards we sort of said, oh, like, I had initially forgotten as well that you could reform, but then someone commented and said, oh, you can reform after you kill a unit, but we figured I didn't do it because he hadn't done it before. The griffin flies over to threaten his war machines, and I back up a little bit to make his charges a bit longer. However, that doesn't really work because he declares a charge on the Seaguard. My thought with the Seaguard is, right when he does this charge, after I stand and shoot the Bone Dragon, I can then reform. That will make this a pretty long charge for the Necrosphinx. But what happens is the Seaguard fail their terror, and they flee, and the Necrosphinx runs them down and kills them all. And they don't even get to stand shoot. So that's too bad. Yeah. So he's here now. The Necrosphinx caught them, gets a turn, reform face. His Bone Dragon goes forward his full distance. I flee with the knights. They get away from his Necropolis knights in the chariot. And what else happens? I think he tries a Light of Death, but doesn't do any wounds, right? He fails to cast. My turn 5. My Silver Helms rally and decide to keep running at this point. So they march over here. They're sort of setting up to try and bail out the sisters, who are stubborn, so they'll hopefully hold for at least a turn against the Necrosphinx, which they shoot at Wind Blast and Fireball and get it down to only 1 wound left. Oh, nope, that's not what they do. They move back here, and they shot at the dragon, and my Lothran Sky Cutter charged the Necrosphinx, did no wounds, and died. So then he overran, so he's now within his movement range of the sisters, so they're not going to get to stand and shoot, and that's not great. I was hoping the Sky Cutter could do a wound. My dragon goes and hides behind the woods. I'm pretty sure he's on 7 wounds now, and he doesn't want to get Light of Death off the board. My Griffin goes in, charges the casket though. So, I mean, was this necessary? Because I just charged the casket with my Griffin and killed it? Who knows? Don't know why these things would have taken wounds, and I don't think they had. So I kill the casket. Jelly's turn 5. He moves his Scorpion up so that once I charge this, so I reform face this way. Once I charge the catapult, he'll then be able to charge my Griffin with his. Oh, that's what happened. The casket blew up and did 2 wounds to his catapult and 2 wounds to his Scorpion, and no wounds to my Griffin Noble. That's what happened. So this is looking a bit dicey back here. He turns the tube card around, casts some magic missiles, doesn't do any wounds. It's only strength 2. These the knights and the Cherokee moving forward. His dragon moves forward. The Necrosphinx charges the sisters. They can't stand and shoot. They form up, and the sisters, with their strike first, do a wound and kill the Necrosphinx and live. So that's amazing. I mean, next turn, the dragon would get to charge them, but it certainly helped out that Necrosphinx. He would have gotten to potentially put attacks into my mage if I had have lived, which would have been bad. So, yeah, hot rolling there from the sisters to do the last wound. So the sisters travel mystical pathways again. I do so. Command phase, I do cast Valzen Making and remove the armor of whatever, reroll wounds from the dragon, but doesn't really matter. I do that, then I shoot at the chariot anyways, just to try and get some points. So, kill off the chariot. The griffin charges a catapult, kills it, and then overruns. I was looking and making sure that if you overrun it off the board, even at the end of the game, you don't count as destroyed. Overruns. I shouldn't, in retrospect, have rolled my stress side. I should have stayed here. It was getting late. We hadn't actually calculated the points, as you'll see in a second. So yeah, so that's my final turn. His turn, he can't get to the griffin, so he doesn't do much. The dragon flies up and breathes fire on the sisters and kills one, but doesn't really do anything. I could have actually evaded here, but I always forget that rule with the sisters. And so it ends up being a draw, which is really disappointing for both of us because it basically puts us both out of the running to go undefeated or to have 4 wins in the square based, which you need wins to win. Yeah, the difference is the banner on the Silverhelm unit, which I just used as chaff. If I hadn't put the banner on, that would have been 50 points less he would have scored. But yeah, we were both, my dragon never gone to combat. His dragon didn't really either, other than the charge into the Sea Guard, which they fled from anyways. So we're both playing KG with our dragons, and the other chaff stuff isn't worth that much. My sisters and Mage are still alive. His Tomb Guard and High Priest are still alive. In retrospect, I should have kept this Griffin here closer, so his Tomb Scorpion could charge me if I want. I think it's a 50-50 on who wins that fight. He has Monster Slayer. My Princess strike first, and then I have the Griffin, so that would have tipped the balance either way. I don't know if he would have taken that charge. But yeah, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for Game 5.